Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today, and welcome to today's upload. Before we jump into it, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, and channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go, and yes, folks, they do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into today's upload, shall we? Briefly, it is Saturday, and at 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, our live stream begins. I hope to see you all there. If you've not been to Saturday Nightmares live from New York, it is full of experiences, paranormal, cryptid. We have a lot of fun, shooting the breeze, and just having a really interesting time. It is a good time, I can assure you of that. I look forward to it every week, and I know the people that have been with the channel and watched the live stream like it as well. So anyway, let's get into today's upload. All right, today, everyone, I have a subscriber who is all the way up north in Beaver Lodge, Alberta. Her name is Marlene. Marlene, how are you today?
I'm doing really good.
I appreciate
doing really good.
I'm sorry. I appreciate you taking some of your time out of your day to share your experiences with us. So right now, you know how I do it. I'm going to turn the floor over to you so you can share your experiences with us and possibly help someone else.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I've had a variety of kind of different encounters, so I'll go by chronological, kind of by my age. So the first one, this would have happened back between when I was about 10 years old, or 8 years old. So it would have been in between 1983 to maybe 1980 or 1984, in that area. Anyways, my dad is one of those hell and brimstone fire pastors or preachers, and that's how I've always been raised. So at that time, I had never even heard of Bigfoot or anything. You know, they kept me kind of sequestered, monitored what I listened to or what I knew about and stuff. But we were at a Christian Bible camp, and it was an hour and a half southwest of Prince George. And in that area, there's nothing but logging, right? And there's little lakes all over and stuff like that. So it was one of these lakes where you went down a logging road, and then you went down another logging road, and then you turned and you went quite a ways winding into this Bible camp. Now, there were cabins and major places like for eating and stuff like that. Now, it was getting towards the end of the camp. It was a 10-day camp, and we'd been there for a while, but now this family showed up. There was 2 women, and there was a boy and a girl, and they were native, I mean, no big thing, but they had come and they were supposed to be staying for to have supper and for the evening service. So this was about 4 o'clock, just before supper would be coming. Anyways, when they had come in, why I met them is because they had rung the bell and announced for everybody to go into the main eating hall, and started asking why, and I ended up talking to the young kids, and they had said that they thought it was a grizzly, but they weren't too sure. But coming into the Bible camp, that they had thought it was a grizzly, and they had told the leaders of the camp that possibly a grizzly. Now, there had been bears, black bears, coming into the camp. And when they saw that, they just said to make noise, or, and they would run away. So when they were saying this, the two kids and I, the girl was a little bit older than me, and he was maybe a year or two younger. But we got this idea of, hey, let's go back to that road and go see this bear or whatever it is. So we went walking out that winding road. We got to the logging road, and they said, well, it was going this way, and she said it was moving so fast, and she said it was too tall to be a bear. Now, those logging roads, because it was really swampy in that area, the roads were built really kind of higher up. So, I mean, going into the ditch, I mean, it would be, quite a drop. And I mean, probably maybe even like about 5 feet from where you would stand on the side to where the top of the road is. It was, it would have been over my head as a kid. So anyways, we get out to that main road, and so we start walking down that road, not from where they came, but on the other side of the Bible camp, heading further, deeper into the woods there. And so we're walking, and we're hearing whistling. And so we start whistling back, and we could hear something. Once again, we could hear something walking with us, and when we would stop, it would stop. Right, and so we would walk, but we kept hearing that whistling. We would whistle back, and we would hear something in the trees moving on the side of the road, on the left side. It would have been on their left side. And now, from my medical condition, like I'm legally blind, but even back then, at that age, my eyesight was really, really bad. They just people weren't really aware of how bad it was. I wasn't either, but all of a sudden we started hearing like this noising and this crashing and stuff like that. And I remember looking over, and I was trying to focus in. And because of my eyesight, it takes longer trying to focusing in. But I remember it was almost, I was focusing in on like one of those teepee structures. But I remember seeing the trees moving, and the trees that were moving were too high up, like they were higher up on the road. But there was no wind, no other trees, and stuff was breaking. And I turned to them, because I saw brown, and I turned to them to say, like, what is that? Like, what is that? And I just see dust. They're gone. I mean, they're booking her back to camp. Now, so I know from my instinct at that time, I had a feeling that there was a monster in the woods. Anyway, so I'm trying to run. They're gone. I get back, and I mean, it was quite a distance because I had started getting the stomach cramp, the stitches you get from when you're running too fast. Yep. So now I'm getting close to the camp, and I'm doubled over in pain. Now this is kind of when I get into camp, this guy he was a loner in the camp. Comes up to me and he says, "Hey, are you Marlene?" And I'm crying and snotty nose and almost hysterical, and I'm like, "Yep, yep." And he's like, "Everybody's looking for you. You're in so much trouble. Like you're in big trouble because you disappeared with that thing out there." And I'm like, "Oh, that's the last thing I wanted to hear." And he's like, "Well, you know what? You can come hide in my cabin. Come hide out in my cabin." So I went into the cabin with him, and as soon as I went in there, I had worse of the feeling than I did with that Bigfoot. I went and I sat down on one of the bunk beds across from him, and trying to calm down. And he says, "Well, come over here to me." And I went over there to him, and he grabbed my hands and he started trying to compliment. "Oh, you're so pretty and this and that." And I'm going, "Whoa!" I had a really bad feeling. And he leaned over and he gave me a kiss. And I mean, I'm like maybe 8-10 years old. I know this is wrong. I just know it was wrong. And I knew at that point I would rather face the wrath of my parents than whatever that guy had in store for me. I didn't know what he had. I just knew I would rather be with my parents. So I went running to find my parents, and of course they had found me, and the whole camp had been out looking for me, I guess, and I guess even the other kids. Now, my parents, they took me in, and my dad, I mean, he whipped me within, almost an inch of my life. When I tried to tell them what we had seen and encountered, they accused me of lying and, of making stories up. And then I tried to tell what this guy had done. And then it was even worse because they accused me about lying about him. And, I got just whipped and, very, very hurt. And that was my lesson of learning that, there may be monsters out in the woods, but there's also monsters in humans, and the human monsters are worse. Can be a lot worse than what we can do, and but it took me years to realize that it was a Bigfoot. Well, it took me even a couple of years to find out that there was a Bigfoot that existed, and then it wasn't even maybe till about 5-6 years ago, because I kept asking people, like, "Have you ever heard a bear whistle?" Because my parents had I told them, find those kids because they'll tell you they saw what I saw. I'm not making this up. They had left, I guess. I guess they probably, I think what had happened is jumped in their vehicle, and just when they found the kids on the road, just piled them in the car and they left because they weren't in the service that evening, and I never saw them back out in camp. And that guy that took me into his camp, nothing was ever even said to him. And like I said, I told my parents what he had done, and you think, they would want to do something, to know that that's in the midst of their family Bible camp. And, nothing was said. I was the one that was punished. And, but finally listening to experiences, because I just had a feeling that I had an encounter, but I couldn't pinpoint where. And then finally putting it together with the whistling, where it would follow you, right, and then stop and stuff, that I put it together that it was a Bigfoot. And now realizing, like, me standing up on the road and how high everything was going, that was a very big one. He would have had to have been very tall, Yeah. Very tall for how high up he was moving and breaking the tree branches and stuff. So, that was my encounter. But like I said, I just put it together But I mean, I've had people thinking I was crazy for my whole life. Asking like, well, can't you get your bear to whistle? Have you ever heard a bear whistle? And people thinking I was crazy because I thought bears whistle.
Right. I mean, you were a kid. What are you supposed to think?
Well, yeah, and but I mean, it was very hurtful that to get told that and beat that you're lying. Yep. And stuff, and I mean, I'm still with talking with my family and their parents and stuff today, but yeah, it was just very hurtful that they were like that, and I just see their small mindedness,
yeah,
that went on. So yeah, that was my first thing. Now, going on, now this is in relation to the gentleman, I think it was in Alabama, that had been, they were saying was attacked by a pack of wild dogs.
Yep.
And looking at the pictures from like you and Dark Waters and stuff, it couldn't have been, and I kind of know that because when I was in my 20s, I had gotten hired to look after 44 stud dogs and 13 polo ponies. So my boss, he still races in the Iditarod.
Okay.
And stuff up in Alaska. So these were sled dogs, and a lot of them had wolf, and I believe that even some of them were pure wolf, or Malamutes and stuff. But now my boss had always told me I needed to be more aggressive with these dogs because I was always lovey, they're dogs, and he's going, no, you can't. If they show any aggression to each other, you need to get the whip and hurt them, eh? And his reasoning being, he's like, if I'm out on a run and these dogs are all 12 dogs are all harnessed to each other, or even the 7 of them are harnessed to each other, and they start fighting, and they're all tied to each other. He's like, it's going to be a bloody mess, and he's like, there won't be a one that lives, eh? So he told me, he said, you need to, when they start growling and being aggressive with each other. So I was doing that with the male dogs, because the male dogs were the ones that were always growling at each other and stuff like that. Now, it was really like we had the alpha males, the alpha females, and I mean that order had to be respected. I had to feed them in that order, because if it got mixed up, there would be a fight. I mean, these dogs, they were dogs, but the intelligence that they even had. Now, the one dog, I know he was part wolf, but he was pure black, and his name was Reindeer, but he was pure black, and he had one blue eye and one brown eye. It was one of those iced crystal eyes, and he was, as soon as you came into the dog yard, so each dog had a dog house, and he had a pole in the middle that had the chain with the swivel, so they could run around in their little area. But this one dog, Reindeer, he was the alpha of 44 dogs, and every time I came into that yard, the other dogs would bark. He would never make it sound. He would just watch me. And I mean, when I was feeding the other dogs, he would just watch me. And I could see that he would, that he would be planning or processing what I was doing, watching my patterns and stuff. Now, the other dog, she was just across from him. And her name was Tata. and she was the alpha female, and she's the one in this story. But a guy came down from Alaska there, and had brought in some new dogs, and had come down. He was working with me about some different training exercises and stuff. And one of the things he pointed out to me and stuff, he said, you need to be paying more attention to the females. And I was like, well, why? And he was saying, because he said, when they fight, they go to the death. They will not stop till whatever they're after is dead. Now, they had never even growled at each other. So, he's like, no, you need to, he's like, you're doing okay, like staying on top, he said, but you need to pay more attention to the signals of the females, he said, because he guaranteed, he said, somewhere you're going to see that one fight, and he's like, pay attention. Now, this was July, and we had been in a heat spell, and so every day I'd been wearing like shorts and flip-flops and stuff up to the dog yard. Now, this was another hot day, but something in my gut made me wear my jeans and my heavy work boots and wool socks and stuff, so I was just heavy. And it was still hot out, and I thought, well, once I'm done with the dogs, I can, kind of dress down before I go out and work with the horses. So I went up there. Now, I would take all of the females out at one, and one all together. And this was a day where they had their free run. So there was a 1 mile marker where I would walk them to, and then I would turn around and I would come back to the yard. Well, we didn't even get halfway to that place, and they were just growling and snipping at each other. And I'm like, what are you guys all PMSing on each other or something? And, something once again told me, just go home. Just take them back to the yard. It's hot out, they can exercise, get another run. It's too hot. It's a good thing, because if what happened would have happened out in the middle of that trail or the field, I would have been dead. So we get back to the yard, and I'm chaining them back up, and all of a sudden I start, hearing noise of a fight, and I turned around. 6 of the dogs, the female dogs, I could give you all of their names, but they had jumped on Tata, which was the head alpha female. There were 6 of them on her. Not thinking, they say never stick your head into a dog fight. Well, that's kind of what happened. I mean, I grabbed the whip and went over there and stuck my hand in there and grabbed her. And when I grabbed her, she turned around and bit me, because, she was turning around just to bite and save her life. When she saw it was me, she didn't want to bite me much, but I ended up, the fighting ended up moving all over the yard. The area was a mess. There was dirt, there was fur. Everything. You could tell there was something massive that had gone on in that area. But going back to, I ended up fighting. Now, these dogs, I got her underneath in between my legs, and she collapsed and kind of thing. I was worried she was next to death, but they circled me, and then they decided they wanted me more than her. And I had the whip that I was trying to use to keep them back, but the intelligence on those dogs, that they would circle and then they would change their circling around, and watching for, okay, like 2 would kind of start getting too close to me on this area where, I would weapon pay attention. And next thing I know, I'm getting nipped by one on my other side, the intelligence that just these dogs had on trying to get me. This went on for Karen, my boss's wife. The dog yard was very close to her house. Now, all because there was a fight going on. You've got 44 dogs barking. Now, it's nothing for the 44 dogs to be barking because they always bark when, food was coming. But within a minute or two, they would be quiet. She noticed that the barking went on and on. And she said she looked out the window and she had seen my head out in the yard and thought, well, I would take care of it. But then the barking still kept going on. She said it was for over 20 minutes. That barking was going on, and it just didn't stop. So she decided to come out there, and as soon as she got into opened the gate for the dog yard, I was covered in blood, and I mean you could see the dogs were circling around me, and she came up to me and I told her, I said, no, I said, you grab the other dogs and tie them up. I said, because as soon as I move or I stop, I said, they're going to be attacking me more or her, right? So she went, she got most of them tied up, chained up. And so then I looked down and she was just laying there and panting, and beautiful, beautiful dog. And I picked her up and I took her into the dog shack there and doing first aid. And like I said, I noticed I was just covered in blood. So I'm looking over her, and I'm thinking it's all from her, and I'm seeing places where she bled and stuff, but not as much as what's on me. So I cleaned up her wounds and stuff and put her in one of the kennels there, and I went out and I looked at the other female dogs, and I mean, they had scruffs and tears of them missing and stuff, but it still did not account for all of the amount of blood that was sprayed on the dog houses and like, again, me. So I told Karen, I said, she asked me if I wanted to go to the hospital or anything, and I'm on adrenaline high, from just fighting for my life, and I said, no, I'm okay. I'm just going to go wash up and clean up, and I'll be okay. And so I actually lived on the property there. So I went down and bed down, and I poured. I was pouring a bathtub. I don't know why, but I started pouring a bath, and I started washing my hands, and as soon as I put my hands in the sink and I would get them clean, I'd pull them up and they'd just be covered in blood again. And that's when I realized my hands were pulp. There were a lot of times where I was actually having to punch with the dogs or kick. I had so many bites. We couldn't even count them. I ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks, and then after that I was still on outpatients for the antibiotics for another 6 weeks. But I couldn't use my hands for anything. I mean, the tears and the swelling and stuff, even the bites just from the dogs was enough that my wrist was broken from one of the bites on my wrist. Now, I was fortunate enough because I did have bites on my legs and like on my ankles and stuff because I was also using my feet to kick. If I would have been wearing those jeans or those boots, who knows? It would have been way worse if it would have been just bare skin. But yeah, I phoned her and said to go to the hospital, and it was very much. I did get a settlement from them for the injuries and stuff, but it should have been a lot more than what it was. But it was just very terrifying, and so. I mean, looking at the pictures of where that guy was attacked, that wasn't a dog attack, because, I mean, that road, and that they would have been torn up. People would have heard them growling, barking, the houses. People would have heard, and that area, there would have been, blood there or something. I mean, I think something just grabbed him and took him away, because it wasn't a dog attack. I've seen it. It looks like like a bear attack.
Oh, absolutely. It's just
and what if just these simple dogs like that can show that much intelligence. Oh my goodness. That terrifies me. What could the intelligence of these dogmen or werewolves have? I mean, if these simple dogs had enough to, were trying to bait to attack and get at me, set me up, look here, and I'm, this one over here is going to grab me. I mean, they weren't coordinating or talking to each other on how to do that. Like, how they knew to do that kind of a setup.
Right. Yeah, they were planning it. It's their natural ability. And the Dogman, just the attack when the Dogmen but kind of encircled the ambulance in Connecticut was an amazing story, which showed a vast amount of cunningness and intelligence.
Well, exactly. People underestimate what, even a simple intelligence of a dog. And so, somehow they knew. I mean, the sled dogs like that, they're kept very close to, like, the wild. It's not like a Dogman, but it's just a black dog that is about the size of a horse.
Wow.
And he has been seen up in Alberta here. And I've seen him twice. Now, just that spring, we had that coyote out on the back road here that was found up in the trees. I was there before the fisheries was there, and there was nothing around the base of the tree, where somebody would be putting that up in the trees. On the road, I mean, there was no skid marks, there was no blood. Even on the coyote, there was no blood from him, whereas if he was hit by a car. And when the fisheries got there, that's what they said. He got hit by a car and flew 12 feet up into the trees.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
and it wasn't a small coyote.
Yeah. You said what, about 80 pounds?
Yeah. That's what the fisheries had said, and it even made the newspaper out here too, because of what it was, or if somebody had hit it, it would have done a lot of damage to their vehicle. And like I said, my foster mom, she lives right on that road. Her bedroom and her kitchen window and her bedroom faces just a few feet away, maybe 100 feet away from where that coyote was in the trees. And she never heard nothing. So, so that's kind of weird. But I did mention to you before about having experience with demon dog.
Yeah.
Not demon dog. I believe that they were hellhounds.
Okay.
Is what I'm thinking they were. When I was recovering from some substance and stuff like that. I ended up moving into a house where it was quite a large house. There was 6 bedrooms. Now, and I mean, one of the bedrooms there, it was so large. Like, I mean, you could have easily fit 4 beds in there. Now, all of us that were kind of living at the time there, we were recovering off of stuff. There were some that had health issues too. A lot of, I wasn't myself, but there was quite a few of them that were on methadone at the time. And there was 7 of us living at the house at this time. Anyways, I should have put it together. Like, we knew there was paranormal stuff that went on to that house. Like, we could hear something coming up the basement steps. And, I mean, it was, like, big, heavy, like, bang, 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 up the steps. And, you know, our coffee cups would rattle on the table. And then we would hear them, like, walk by the doorway and then go up the stairs. And then they would just disappear. But I didn't find out till later, but it was a really old house. But there was like little plaques like by the front door that said visitors must report to the nurses desk. You know, and then that please wash your hands and stuff. Well, after the paranormal activity and stuff, I looked into it, and my mom grew up from out here, and when I was looking it up, and she said, no, that was an old house where it wasn't a hospital. She said that was where they were putting the people with the TB, like the tuberculosis.
Yep.
So there were a number of people, and I didn't realize that at the time. Now, out of the 7 of us that lived there, there's only 2 of us that are left. The other 5 died. And they actually died in the house.
Wow.
In the house there. The one, I know it was a heart attack. The second one was a stroke. But the other 3, there was no cause of why they died. And the one guy, Malcolm, he had been talking about having the shadow people, seeing shadow people and stuff that were bothering him, that he couldn't sleep and stuff. He would prefer to go sleep out in the camper, even in the wintertime, because they were bothering him so much. But after the last one had died, I started seeing the black, I don't know, like werewolf, like a hellhound. They could go through walls, or you know, there was no getting away from them. They didn't talk to you, but they would put thoughts in your head, and they, you know, I would have so many of the nightmares. I wasn't living in the house at that time. I'd moved out. But even just right before Chris had died, I started dreaming of these hellhounds, and I talked to him, and he said he had been dreaming of these hellhounds and stuff, and he was thinking, you know, it's time to sell the house and just get away from all of that bad energy in there. But I was having these nightmares of these being in that house, and you know, like where, you know, you see them in those movies where you're just running through the door, and you know, there's another door, like you can't get away, and those things would put thoughts in your mind. And you know, the thing is even having the waking dreams of seeing these things like peeking around corners at you and stuff. And that's why when I hear things, these people talking, and they're saying when they're saying red eyes,
Mm-hmm.
They had the red eyes like that. And I think, I don't know, just my believing is that more when you see the things with the red eyes, they're more of a demonic and like a negative spiritual entity with those red eyes. But yeah. Anyways, it was to the point where I was like losing my mind, especially seeing them in the daytime. And finally, one of the person I was renting a room from, he knew and he knew an old Romanian priest from back in Romania, and he believed in this sort of thing because he had done a number of exorcisms in mental institutions over in Romania, and so he phoned him, and because he was in the diocese in Edmonton, where we were up here in Beaver Lodge, and but even getting on the phone, when I got on the phone with him, he was able to tell me. I didn't have to really tell him anything. He told me. He was able. He knew, and he said that's what he identified them as. He had some kind of a name that sounded more Russian, and I'm trying to find the name that he used, but basically he said that they were a hellhound, and they basically wanted my soul, and they were trying to drive me, into insanity, or to take my life or something. They wanted my soul, my spirit, and if they couldn't have that, just having you dead would work. And so he said a prayer in Latin and stuff like that over the phone, and everything, and he had me repeating some things after him, and then he told me, he said, okay, you'll be okay, but he said, don't go looking for them, don't go researching that, he said, because if you do, he said, you're going to open the door for them again, and it's going to be worse. And he said, just don't. He said, when you don't even drive down the same street as a house, he said, take a couple blocks away. He said, because they've kind of marked that as their area because of the death, being the amount of death there and stuff. He said, just don't even go near that house. I don't even go near that place. The house has been ripped and torn down. And I don't even go near that street, even to that day. That was over 10 years ago, but I still don't. But it's very sad to know, losing, all of my friends.
Big, large dog. Prior to you talking about the hellhounds at the sanitarium house there, the big, large dog in Edmonton. What is that? Has numerous people seen that thing, or?
Yeah, numerous people have. Okay. Yeah, in Alberta. If you go on YouTube and you just say if you type in dire wolf yeah. Videotaped or whatever, a guy did get it on the videotape, and then there are some other ones from people from Alberta, and that's what they're kind of maybe saying that was. It is a dire wolf.
Yeah.
Now when I saw it, I had things like I had people that died that were very close to me after seeing it. So I don't know. I haven't been able to find out or connect with some of these other people to find out if there was a connection with that. But yeah, if you type in a man videotapes dire wolf in northern Alberta and stuff, and you'll see it, and it actually attacked his dog and stuff. It's I can look it up and find that link and send that.
No, that's
over
okay.
For you too.
I got it, no problem. But there's a creature, or a canine cryptid called the Wahila, that's up that way, northern Canada, Alaska region, which is just a huge monstrous dog. But yeah, they think that's a dire wolf as well. So it's
okay. I've never heard that.
Yeah.
I've never heard that. So I'll have to look that up. Wahila. Okay.
Well, I appreciate you coming on today and sharing your terrifying events with us. And you know, it's I really found it interesting how you shared your childhood, not childhood, but teenage years with the wild, or not wild dogs, but you know, the sled dogs. Essentially, they are kind of wild because they're kept that way. But you know, it does show the cunningness and intelligence of these, you know, dogs that you were around. So you know, it just dispels the proof. You know, there's no proof that that man. Actually, there was two men. There was one in Texas and one on the Alabama, Florida region. And they blamed that on wild dogs, which, you know, there would be massive amounts of blood. There would be noise, a lot of noise, like you said. So I really appreciate you putting that input.
Yeah, a lot of noise. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, if I would have been just one-on-one with one of those, you know, it wouldn't have been anything as it was. But, I mean, the fact that there was, you know, 7 of them, you know, well, basically it was 6, you know, because it was the 6 that were on the one. She kind of, like I said, once I got her underneath me, she just kind of flopped and just, you know, right. Didn't move. But, yeah, you know, one of the things too is my boss, when he heard what had happened, before he, because we actually, he also had like 2,200 head of buffalo, which was kind of cool. But before his wife was even allowed to take me to the hospital, he made me go back to that dog yard. And he said, you take that hose, and he said, and that weapon, he said, to every last one of those dogs that did that, he said, you go over there and because he said it'll still be in their mind, where he said if you leave and you're gone for a couple of days or even 6 hours, you know, they won't know what they're in trouble for. He said, you go back up there and you know, you raise hells, and, you know, he said, I know you don't like to hit them or whatever. He said, maybe you're a little different now, but yeah, I did. I had to go up there and make quite a display, and because all the other dogs pretty much saw that, I had to make a display of them, of inserting that I am the alpha of all of you.
Yeah, you had to show your dominance. Yep. Yep.
You know, but yeah, it's kind of you know, and you know, I never hear many people talk about that, but I do believe that with the dogmen and stuff like that, they must have alphas.
Oh yeah,
alphas. I've heard them with Bigfoots and stuff, but with the dogs and the alphas and stuff, there's got to be some of those. Got to be those. So.
Yeah, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your encounters with us. Is there anything that you'd like to say before we end the interview?
Well, just be careful, people, on going out and looking for these things. I don't believe any of them are nice and fluffy. You know, with these Sasquatch, I mean, we were 3 little kids, you know, that whistling and it following us. But, you know, we were just 3 little kids. They could have taken us out, especially when I got left there by myself. It didn't. I think it was scaring us back home. I don't know why he was whistling and kind of playing that little game with us, but or maybe there was something else that knew there was something else in that woods and scared us to go running back. But yeah, just they're not warm and fuzzy, and yeah, don't go out looking. And you know, I know this stuff is being buried. You know, like even that coyote out back here, you know, the Fish and Wildlife saying it got hit by a car and flew 12 feet up in the tree. You know, it didn't break any branches or anything, or, you know, so, yeah, very, you know, they're lying. They got no problem on hiding it.
Yeah,
or,
absolutely.
You know, trying to make something up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and, you know, I had talking to you before that I don't think a lot of people, when they're hearing this, they don't like to hear it because especially even now, my dad, he's still alive. He's kind of loosened on the hell and brimstone of everybody going to hell right now. But he still does not like to hear or acknowledge that any of that stuff could be. Because it means he has to open his mind to other possibilities. And, they get comfortable on what they know and keep it closed. And it's a comfort, that nothing like that could exist.
Yeah.
It leaves them comfortable. And that's not true. There are monsters out there, but there are also humans. The comment section and everything that I feel comfortable telling this. It's only been a few people, my brother and my dad, and then my fiance, that I've ever really talked about any of these experiences about. Even with the hellhound there, I haven't really talked to anybody much about it. But it's just sad, that I lost all my friends. And maybe if we had known that there was something supernatural going on in that house from all the death that had happened there, we could have prepared ourselves. So.
Yeah. Well, it was great having you on, and I appreciate it. And thank you.
Oh, thank you. And have a good night, everybody.
You as well. All right, folks, what an amazing interview. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Guys, I'd like to thank you all for supporting the channel. It is, after all, your support that keeps this channel growing and going, and a place for people to share their experiences, ideas, and theories, judgment and ridicule free, simply treated with the respect that we all deserve. Thank you. Everyone, please stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, pets, family, and friends. These creatures are real. They are out there. They're definitely dangerous. Share this information with those you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for answers, and God bless.